Okay, so when we decided we were going to do the butterfly, we thought, well, we want to do something that's really luxurious looking, but that's going to be a lot of money for some people to buy perfect feathers or plumes to do. Each one of these feathers was made to look like a perfect plume, but they weren't. They were damaged feathers. When it comes to feathers, it's always about recycling them as much as possible. If you break something or whatever, you can almost always use it again. A Nandu is usually made from a spad, but it can be made from a drab as well. Basically, it's very narrow. It's a really dramatic feather that we sell, and it's used a lot in costuming. So it's really good for you to know how to make one of these anyways, regardless, because there's no sense in buying another kind of feather if you already have some feathers that have a little damage done to them. This can be a little bit messy, so I just keep it over usually a piece of paper. And I like to go out about 1 1/4 inches on each side of the quill. Say when you get to the top you have a broken tip too. No big deal, you just make the broken spot your new tip. So never get rid of your feathers if you have some damage to them. You can just reuse them. Just get creative and think about how you might finish something off with something that's been trimmed up instead. So this just became a Nandu. Nandus can also be like flexed a little bit on their quill. You can make them go to the left, to the right, to the back. You can kind of curl them a little bit too. So that one's really good to know how to make. So you just made that into a Nandu. Okay, so another problem that you might come across with quills that you already have would be if you have a broken tip or a missing tip, or if you buy the damaged feathers and you have one that's missing a tip. So this actually was the original feather and there was a break. But as you see, the tip is fine, it's intact, there's nothing wrong with it, but this would go into what they would call damaged. So I just went ahead and just snipped it on off the rest of the way. And I kind of like doing this anyways too, because if I need a longer feather, not just the tip, then I'll incorporate these together. Now I'm going to show you something. On this wing right here, the feathers are going back. So if I needed a feather like this, I'm going to glue the tip behind if it matches best. And you just kind of want to go with quill color, which would be like that. And if it doesn't match up well and you have to do the quill on top, this is what I want you to do. Make a clean trim going like this, where the slice is on the bottom, and that way it blends in with your quill and you go on top. Anytime you do gluing with hot glue gun or anything like that, I want you to keep your glue to the center of the quill, always, always, always. Because you can strip the glue off that way when you're using hot glue, and you want to be able to reuse the feathers as many times as possible. So now you have a perfect quill, and that wing is full of this kind of repair work, and you can't tell it at all. Okay, so now I have an example of a feather that I need to make longer, but since I was going to have to reinforce it anyways with making it longer, I went ahead and got one that was broken. This is typical of what you would get in damaged. So I'm going to repair the break at the same time that I extend the length of the feather down. Basically, I'm just going to go in right here on this portion and cover that where that needs fixed. Again, I'm only going to glue right in the center where the quill is. Smooth out my hairs. And now to make it longer, I just take this bottom portion. I'm going to bring it down so it's about 4 to 5 inches longer. Just go in about 3 inches up. Pretty good amount of glue in there. Put the back side in. You're going to cover up the ugly part anyways that you had. And generally, you're going to be hiding your tips into any project that you're doing. No one's going to ever see the bottom part of it anyway. So now we just made a longer quill and repaired a break. This is an example of if I had just holes in the quill. Like say I was taking this apart and dismantling another project and I accidentally ripped some of the flue off. You might get a feather that looks like this, where you have these holes and gaps and missing spots, and you want to cover that up. Or say you bought damaged material and you have one of those in there. Super simple. I only need to cover about, I don't know, 3 to 4 inches worth, so I'm just going to cut about 5 inches off of this one that's already broken. And just kind of smooth it out because this is actually going to be the bottom part. And I would do this to any time I had a thin spot or a hole. This quill is actually really beautiful, this plume is. But it has 1, 2, 3 breaks in it. So you may not feel safe just using it like that. So my main breaks are here, here, and here. Remember, glue as closely to only on the quill as you can. That way you can just keep reusing, reusing, reusing. You're going to turn the portion that you cut off over upside down. You don't have to worry about any of those bends or breaks in the quill. So again, if you want a very luxurious look like this, because this is made out of all damaged material, don't hesitate. Go online and go to Feather Place and see what they have in stock right now for their damaged feathers. And really, you could do just about anything, not just a project like this.